Have you noticed that poker tables are absolutely buzzing these days?
Oh, definitely.
It really feels like we're in the middle of a massive poker boom, you know?
Yeah, live games, online sites, it's everywhere.
People are flocking to them. And you might be asking yourself, why now? What's really driving this huge surge in popularity?
Well, we've heard some theories from listeners, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Things like maybe it's the economy or uh, perhaps a real need for social connection.
Or the content creators, definitely. Can't ignore them.
For sure. But I think, that's what we're here for today.
That's right. This deep dive, it's really about moving past those surface reasons.
And getting into what really governs winning at poker.
Exactly. The fundamental principles. We're going to unpack the math behind it all, the strategic ideas.
Risk management, too. That's huge.
Absolutely. And how different environments, like online versus live, change things.
So consider this your shortcut, maybe. A way to understand poker at a much deeper level.
Precisely. A more insightful level.
Okay, so let's kick things off there. What is truly fueling this incredible resurgence? It's clearly on a lot of people's minds.
Well, a huge driver is, I think, definitely the social aspect.
The social side. Tell me more.
Think about it. Poker rooms, they're kind of a ready-made hangout spot, right?
Yeah, low pressure.
Exactly. Low-pressure way to engage for people with, busy jobs or maybe folks who are single looking for some interaction.
It's an easy outlet.
It really is. You can just drop in, find some connection whenever you want without all the demands of, maintaining close friendships. It fills a real need.
That makes sense. And then there's the economic angle. That conversation is always interesting.
Right? The strong economy versus weak economy debate for poker.
Which one drives it? But here's something interesting we're seeing. Record numbers of people who can actually afford the $10,000 buy-in for big tournament.
Like the World Series.
Exactly. That kind of spending, well, it points towards a pretty healthy economy for some people, doesn't it?
It certainly suggests disposable income.
And there's that theory, too, about the pandemic, right? That people saved money.
Right, maybe less travel, less dining out.
And now that cash is going into experiences.
Yeah.
Like high-stakes poker trip.
Absolutely plausible. And we mentioned content creators earlier, but their impact is just monumental.
Oh, huge.
Vloggers, streamers, you know the names. Brad Owen, Rampage, Mariano.
Doug Polk, Mr. Beast even getting involved, the Botez sisters.
Hustler Casino live streams. They've just brought so much fresh energy, new audiences entirely.
And reignited things for older players, too.
Yeah, there's this definite trickle effect, Younger viewers find it, get hooked, maybe share it with their families.
And suddenly mom and dad are interested.
Exactly. Sparks interest in a whole new demographic.
And, it's probably worth noting, too, the wider legalization of online gambling, like sports betting.
That probably helps indirectly.
Yeah, boosts poker's visibility, makes it seem more mainstream, maybe.
Normalizes it a bit.
And like you said about the social side, after, periods of isolation we've all kind of experienced, poker offers that sense of community again.
That belonging, yeah. People talk about the camaraderie at the table.
Seeing familiar faces, sharing that energy. It's more than just cards. It's a social hub.
Definitely. But, okay, underneath all this buzz, the social stuff, the economics, what's really underpinning every single decision made at the table?
It always comes back to this, doesn't it? The numbers.
The numbers.
Okay, let's shift gears then. Let's talk foundation. Poker, at its absolute core, it's a game of incomplete information, right?
Totally. You never know exactly what your opponents have.
And that's exactly where probability comes in. It's like your guide. So how does really understanding probability help us make better decisions?
Well, think of probability like your poker GPS, as you said. It's not just some, abstract math concept. It's the long-term likelihood of something happening. Flip a coin 1,000,000 times, it's going to be close to 50-50 heads. In poker, it gives you that mathematical framework to evaluate uncertain stuff. Like, how often will I hit that flush draw? Or, what are the odds my opponent actually has the nuts?
So without it, you're basically guessing, driving blind.
Pretty much. You're relying purely on intuition, which can be very wrong.
And there are crucial distinctions within probability, aren't there? Like mutually exclusive events.
Right. Things that just cannot happen at the same time.
Like a card being both the ace of spades and the ace of hearts. Impossible.
Exactly. And for those, the probabilities just add up simply.
But then you have the non-mutually exclusive events, where things can overlap, like a card being, say, a heart or an ace.
Right, and you can't just add those probabilities together, can you?
No, because you'd count the ace of hearts twice.
Precisely, you have to avoid that double counting. So you sum the individual chances, but then you subtract the joint probability.
The chance of both happening together.
Exactly, the chance of A and B, like figuring out the odds of drawing a red card or a face card. Add reds, add faces, subtract the red faces.
Got it. And then there are independent events, things that don't affect each other.
Yeah, like two separate dice rolls. What you roll the first time doesn't change the odds for the second roll.
So how do you calculate the chance of both happening?
For those, you just multiply their individual probabilities. Getting double sixes is easy. 16 times 16.
Which is 136.
Right. Simple multiplication.
Okay, but poker often involves dependent events, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where one thing changes the odds of the next.
Absolutely. The classic example. You hold two hearts. You're hoping for a flush on the flop.
Right. If the first flop card is a heart, the odds of the next one being a heart change.
Exactly. Because there's one less heart in the deck. That's where conditional probability comes into play.
So the big takeaway here for you, the listener, is that really getting a handle on these fundamentals. It lets you mathematically size up how likely different outcomes are, gives you a critical edge.
It replaces guesswork with calculation.
All right, so we've got the mechanics of probability down. But what does this actually mean for making money? How do we turn these odds into profitable decisions, not just in one hand, but, over the long haul?
Yeah, this is where we get into expected value, or EV. It's a cornerstone concept.
Asset value, okay.
So imagine all the possible outcomes of a decision you could make at the table. Betting, calling, folding.
Right.
And you know the probability of each outcome happening and what you'd win or lose in each case.
Okay.
EV is simply the sum of each outcome's value multiplied by its probability. It's the average result you'd expect if you made that same decision over and over and over again, like infinitely.
Let's use a super simple example, like a coin flip game.
Perfect.
Say I bet $10. If it's heads, I win $10. If it's tails, I lose $10. What's the EV?
Well, 50% chance you win $10, 50% chance you lose $10. So 0.5, $10 plus spent 0.5, $10 equals 0.
0 EV. A fair bet. Neither good nor bad long term.
Exactly. But now, change the payouts. What if you win $11 on heads, but still only lose $10 on tails? Ah, okay. So now it's 0.5, $11 plus 0.5, $10. That's $5.50 minus $5.
Equals positive 50 cents.
So on average, I make 50 cents every time I make that bet. The EV is positive.
Bingo. And that is the absolute core of winning in poker, or really any strategic game with uncertainty, maximizing positive EV.
Making choices that are profitable on average, even if you lose sometimes in the short run.
Precisely. Because one hand, or even one session, that's just what we call a random variable, your results are going to bounce around.
Right, the swings, variance.
Exactly. Variance measures how spread out those results are from the average, from your EV. And standard deviation is just the square root of variance. It gives you a sense of the typical size of those swings.
Okay, so variance and standard deviation measure the bounciness.
Yeah. And what's really crucial to grasp is how they scale. Variance adds up with each hand you play. But the standard deviation, the typical swing, it only grows by the square root of the number of hands.
Wait, say that again? So if your typical swing, your standard deviation for one hand is, let's say, X. After playing 100 hands, your typical swing isn't 100 times X. It's the square root of 100 times X. So just 10X.
Okay. That's a huge difference. It means the swings get bigger in absolute terms, but smaller relative to the total amount bet or one lost over many hands.
Exactly. And this is where it gets, as you said, really fascinating. The central limit theorem.
Sounds intimidating, but you said it's like a comfort blanket.
It kind of is for the long run. It tells us something amazing. No matter how wild the results of individual poker hands are, big wins, big losses, weird distributions if you play enough hands, the average result across all those hands will start to clump together in that familiar bell shape. The normal distribution.
Centered right around
your true expected value, your true win rate.
Wow. Okay.
And this ties directly into the law of large numbers.
Yeah.
Think of the poker table like a giant experiment. You play hundreds, thousands, millions of hands. The table we often look at shows that while the absolute dollar amount, your results might swing away from your expectation grows.
The 10x versus the 100x thing.
Right. But its size relative to the sheer number of hands played gets much, much smaller.
So over a huge sample size, your actual results will get really, really close to your calculated expected value.
Converge, exactly. Which is why short-term poker results can feel like pure luck, total chaos.
Because variance dominates in the short run.
But long-term success, it's not about luck. It's purely about consistently making those plus EV decisions hand after hand, session after session.
And letting the law of large numbers smooth out the variance.
You got it. Patience and volume let your edge shine through. It's why discipline is key.
Okay, so the mass provides the bedrock. But here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The human element.
Ah, yes, the other players.
Because poker isn't played in a vacuum against calculators. It's about people.
Right.
So how do we start categorizing players, figuring out their tendencies, and then, exploiting them?
Yeah, opponent analysis is fundamental. Recognizing player types is crucial for maximizing your edge. Let's talk about a few common ones.
Okay.
First up, you've got the maniacs.
Oh, boy. We've all seen them.
Right. Super loose, super aggressive, betting, raising, bluffing like crazy, often with, frankly, terrible hands.
So how do you deal with that? It can be intimidating.
The key is figuring out their breaking point. When you push back, when you raise them, do they finally slow down? Or do they just keep barreling?
Ah, okay. So there are two types of maniacs almost.
Kind of. If they back off when faced with real strength, you can actually bluff them more often. But if they just keep clicking buttons no matter what,
Then you just got to wait.
pretty much. Wait for a strong hand, let them bet into you, and stack them. Don't try to bluff the unbluffable maniac.
Makes sense. Okay, who's next? Maybe the opposite end of the spectrum.
Exactly. Let's talk about the rocks.
The ultra-tight players.
The tightest. These guys, or gals, they play only premium hands. They rarely bluff. They're super passive, often just calling even with strong hands, afraid to scare people off.
So they're predictable, but maybe hard to get money from.
Hard to get a lot of money from on any single hand unless you also have a monster. But exploiting them is mostly about aggression.
Oh, so.
Steal their blinds relentlessly. Bet when the flop comes and you both probably miss because they will fold unless they hit it hard. They won't fight you for small or medium pocks without the goods.
You chip away at them.
Exactly. Constant pressure on their blinds and missed flops.
Big maniacs, rocks. What's another common type we see a lot?
Ah, the beloved and sometimes infuriating calling station.
Yes. The ones who just call.
They call. They're loose like the maniac, getting involved in lots of pots, but they're passive. They don't raise much. They just call.
Even with weak hands or draws.
Especially with weak hands and draws. They hate folding. They want to see the next card, or they think their weak pair might be good. They don't have a good sense of relative hand strength or pot odds.
So how do you exploit someone who never folds?
You stop bluffing them, for one.
Right, obviously.
And then you value bet relentlessly. But not just with your monsters, you bet a much wider range of hands for value than you normally would.
Because they'll call with worse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bet your medium strength hands, your top pairs with weaker kickers, because you know they're likely calling with second pair, bottom pair, ace high, gut shot draws. You name it. Just value town.
So recognizing these patterns, maniac, rock, calling station, and then adjusting your strategy.
It's not just a nice skill to have. It's absolutely critical. It's how you turn a small edge into a significant win rate. It's active exploitation.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit now and think about the modern poker world.
Yeah.
How does the actual environment playing online versus sitting down in a live casino change the game?
Yeah.
And a strategy?
Oh, it changes quite a bit. The online setting puts a premium on different skills, mainly because of the sheer volume.
The number of hands you play per hour is way higher online.
Massively higher. And what that means is that players who are actually losing money, the net losers, they tend to reach their breaking point much faster online.
What do you mean by breaking point?
They lose their bankroll or just get discouraged by the losses piling up much more quickly than they would in a live game where they might play far fewer hands over the same period. The variance and negative EV hit them harder and faster.
And you also mentioned some other barriers for whales, the big losers online.
Yeah, there are practical and psychological hurdles. Moving large sums of money electronically onto a site can be a barrier in itself.
Right.
And online, it's much harder to maintain that illusion of, oh, I'm just having fun or I'm doing okay, when you have to keep clicking the deposit button. The losses are stark. There's no hiding from the numbers.
Whereas live, you just buy more chips, maybe not track it as closely.
Exactly. You can maintain the narrative a bit easier. So these factors tend to mean there are fewer massive, long-term losers online compared to the live scene.
Interesting. So who prefers online then?
Players who are really focused on profit often gravitate online. Why? Because it's a volume business.
More hands per hour equals realizing your win rate faster.
Precisely. If you have an edge, playing more hands means earning more money over time, assuming you manage your bankroll correctly. Online offers that volume potential like nothing else.
So the consequence of all this,
The consequence is that, generally speaking, online games at a specific stake level are almost always tougher than the equivalent live game.
because the weaker players bust out faster and the profit-focused players concentrate there for volume.
That's the prevailing wisdom, yeah. So for you, the listener, thinking about where to play,
Online versus live.
it's a really crucial decision. Choosing the environment that fits your skills, your temperament, and importantly, your financial goals and bankroll is key for long-term success. Don't just jump into the toughest games online if you're not ready.
Good advice. Okay, let's connect this back to the bigger picture of strategy. Game theory. We hear about finding optimal strategies in poker. What does that actually mean, and why is it so incredibly complicated in real poker?
Right, game theory. In its purest form, especially in simple two-player, zero-sum games.
Zero-sum meaning one person's win is the other's loss.
Exactly, like rock, paper, scissors. An optimal strategy, there is one that gives you the best possible result even if your opponent knows exactly what your strategy is and tries their best to beat it.
The nemesis idea.
The nemesis, right.
Yeah.
In rock, paper, scissors, playing each option randomly 1/3 of the time is optimal. Your nemesis knows you're doing that, but they can't exploit it to do better than break even.
Okay, so it's about being unexploitable.
In that simple context, yes. For more complex games, especially multiplayer ones, we talk about Nash equilibria. John Nash proved these exist for all finite games.
And a Nash equilibrium is.
It's a state where every player is using a strategy, and no single player can improve their own outcome by just changing their own strategy, assuming everyone else keeps doing what they're doing.
So everyone's kind of locked into a stable point.
Sort of, yes. It sounds really powerful, like the solution to poker.
But
Applying it perfectly to multiplayer poker is incredibly tricky. It's not just about being unexploitable anymore. There are also exploitive elements.
meaning you actively try to take advantage of others' mistakes.
Right. And in multiplayer games, players can disturb any equilibrium. Plus, you get implicit alliances, not outright cheating, but...
Like soft collusion.
Exactly. That loose passive style you see in low-limit live games is a great example.
How so?
Objectively, it's not optimal if everyone played tight aggressive. But by everyone implicitly agreeing to see lots of flops, cheap, call down light, not bluff much, it kind of reduces the punishment for making mistakes.
It makes the game easier or less costly for weaker players.
In a way, yes. It's like an unspoken agreement. It's a fascinating social dynamic, and it's a real part of multiplayer poker that pure two-player game theory doesn't fully capture.
That's really interesting. Any other, mathematical quirks from game theory in poker?
Well, there's the golden mean of poker, a constant roughly 0.414. It's the square root of 2 minus 1.
Seriously.
Yeah, it pops up sometimes in theoretical solutions for optimal bet sizing in certain no-limit situations. Just shows the deep math underlying it all.
Mind blown. Okay, so game theory is complex.
And one final, really crucial point. Multi-street poker games with a flop, turn, and river isn't just like playing 3 separate single-street games.
Right, the decisions are connected.
Deeply connected. The optimal way to play the flop is heavily influenced by what might happen on the turn and river, and what hands you think your opponent might have then. The full game solution is often very different from just looking at one street in isolation.
So understanding game theory concepts, even if you can't perfectly apply them.
It helps you think beyond just your own cards. It forces you to consider how your actions affect others, how their actions affect you, and why things like balance not being too predictable are so vital long term.
Which brings us to another crucial topic for anyone taking poker seriously. Even if you have a winning strategy, even if you're making plus EV decisions, variance happens.
Oh, does it ever? Downswings are inevitable.
So how do we handle that? How do we manage our bankroll effectively and deal with the dreaded risk of ruin?
Risk of ruin, or ROAR. It's simply the probability, the chance that you'll lose your entire poker bankroll.
Okay, what are the key things to know about it?
Well, the most fundamental, if you have a positive expected value, if you're actually a winning player, your risk of ruin is less than 100%. You might go broke due to bad luck, but it's not guaranteed.
But if your EV is 0 or negative?
If you're a break-even or losing player, and you play long enough, your risk of ruin is effectively 100%. Variance will eventually wipe you out. That's a harsh truth.
Wow, okay. What else?
How it combines is important. If you have two separate bankrolls, say $500 each, the risk of ruin for that combined $1,000 isn't just half the risk of one $500 roll, it's the risk of one squared.
Squared, so it's much, much lower.
Much lower. Having a larger single bankroll significantly reduces your risk of ruin compared to multiple smaller ones. It provides a bigger cushion against swings.
That's a powerful point for bankroll management.
Absolutely. Now, how Roar applies depends a bit on the game format.
So you mentioned this earlier, tournaments.
Tournaments have very skewed results. Lots of small losses, the buy-in, and a few huge wins. A standard statistical formula for Roar would actually overestimate your risk.
Because you can only lose your buy-in, not some huge amount.
Exactly. Your downside is capped per event. Limit ring games, on the other hand.
Where bets are fixed sizes.
Yeah, the win-loss distribution there is usually closer to a normal bell curve. So the standard Roar formulas work relatively well. Mean and variance are the key factors.
And no limit ring games, where you can lose your whole stack.
Those have the fat tails we talked about. More extreme wins and losses than a pure normal curve predicts. Technically, this biases the standard Roar calculations slightly, but often the practical difference is minimal. The long-term average still dominates.
Okay, but a big challenge here is knowing your actual win rate, right? Variance makes that hard.
Huge challenge. Your observed win rate over, say, 10,000 hands might be quite different from your true long-term win rate. You might be running good or running bad.
So relying solely on your recent results to calculate ROAR could be dangerous.
It could be. If you overestimate your win rate, you might take on too much risk. If you underestimate it, you might be too conservative.
So what's a better way?
A more robust approach is not to assume one single win rate. Instead, use a distribution of possible win rates, centered around your observed rate, but acknowledging the uncertainty.
Like saying, I think my win rate is probably X, but it could reasonably be between Y and Z.
Exactly. Then you calculate a weighted risk of ruin across that whole range of possibilities. It gives you a much more realistic picture, especially with limited data.
So understanding ROAR, its nuances for different games, and accounting for win rate uncertainty.
It's absolutely vital for making smart bankroll decisions. It's what keeps winning players in the game long enough for their edge to prevail. It prevents you from going broke during a perfectly normal downswing.
Okay, let's shift from playing the game itself to the business side of things. The metagame decisions outside of specific hands. What's critical there for sustained profit?
Yeah, thinking like a professional. One key concept, though maybe more theoretical for many, is the Kelly criterion.
Kelly criterion.
It's a formula, really a utility function based on the logarithm of your bankroll that aims to maximize the growth rate of your bankroll over time. Not just EV per hand, but long-term growth.
So it helps decide how much to bet or what stakes to play.
Exactly. Based on your estimated edge and your current bankroll size, it suggests an optimal fraction to risk to maximize long-term compounding growth.
Interesting. What about portfolio management? Does playing different types of games help?
Well, just playing, say, tournaments and cash games doesn't inherently reduce your overall variance much. But strategies like swapping action.
Selling pieces of yourself.
Right. Selling percentages of your buy-ins or potential winnings to other players or investors, that definitely reduces your personal volatility. It smooths out the swings.
Improves your risk-adjusted return, your Sharpe ratio.
Precisely. And for online players, multi-tabling, effectively playing multiple tables at once without hurting your win rate too much, can also lower your overall variance relative to your hourly earn.
Makes sense. And then there are backing agreements.
Very common in the poker world, especially for tournaments. A backer puts up the money, the player plays.
And they split the profits somehow.
Usually, yeah. The backer typically covers losses first, meaning the player has to get back to even makeup before they start sharing profits.
Okay. Are there risks for the backer?
Oh, absolutely. If the agreement is for a fixed bankroll amount and profits are paid out regularly, the backer actually has a 100% risk of ruin for that specific stake eventually, because the upside is capped, profits leave, but the downside, losses, can eat the whole stake.
Huh. And you mentioned something about settling when ahead being good for the player.
Extremely good for the player, especially in tournaments. Because tournament results are so skewed, lots of blanks, few huge scores, letting the player cash out the deal whenever they're in profit.
They capture the upswings.
Exactly. Simulations showed this clause can be worth a lot to the player's bottom line. Maybe 5 buy-ins worth of extra value out of a 70 buy-in expected win in one study. It leverages the variance in the player's favor.
Fascinating. Anything else on the business side? tournament equity.
Yeah, quickly, when deals are made at final tables or backers need to value a player's current tournament standing, they use equity models. Chip Chop, ICM, independent chip model, like Landrum Burns or Melmoth Harville.
Different ways to estimate your share of the remaining prize pool based on chip stacks.
Right. They all have slightly different assumptions and biases, often giving you a plausible range for your current equity. Understanding these helps in negotiations or evaluating backing deals.
So all this knowledge, Kelly, swapping, backing nuances, equity models, it helps you approach poker more like a business.
Exactly. More professionally, whether you're managing your own money, thinking about getting backed, or even backing someone else.
Wow. We have covered a lot of ground today. A true deep dive, wasn't it?
It really was. From why poker's booming right now.
The social stuff, the content creators,
Right. All the way through probability, EV, player types,
game theory, risk of ruin, bankroll management.
and even the business deals behind the scenes.
It really highlights that the beauty of poker isn't just, holding pocket aces.
Not at all. It's in all those layers of understanding the math, the psychology, the strategy that you need to really master the game.
Every piece we talked about today is like another tool in the toolbox.
Exactly. Tools to help you refine your approach, make better decisions, think more clearly under pressure.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Whether you play for fun on Fridays or you're grinding online trying to go pro.
Hopefully this gives you a new lens, a deeper way to look at every decision you make, at the table and even away from it when managing your poker life.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. What kind of poker player are you right now? And how will understanding these deeper principles, probability, EV, game theory, risk, how might that change your game?
Or even how might it change how you approach other uncertain situations in life, knowing that these concepts of expected value and managing risk are always at play.
Something to think about. We
Right.
definitely invite you to keep exploring these fascinating ideas and see how they play out next time you're at the tables.